My name is Sarah Garfield. I would like to analyze race and immigration policy that has been occurring in America since the late 19th century. I would like to analyze if race and immigration laws are just. But before we can talk about that, we need to ask a few questions, and we need to talk about what was happening before the 19th century that led to the immigration laws. Since the beginning of record history, there has been different cultures and races with different values. What would happen if we were all one melting pot where there would be no borders? How would people get along with others that have different values? Could it be beneficial for there to be different countries with different values? How are values defined, and who has the correct values? Is it beneficial to have immigration quotas to help keep these values? Who can say their values are the best or correct if they are man-made? Still, today, after thousands of years, there are many countries with different cultures and different values. Before we can discuss race and immigration laws, we need to talk about what was happening in the U.S. before the first immigration laws were enacted. One of the main reasons that people fled to America was because people were escaping persecution. When these people became a nation, they wrote the Bill of Rights to give the people rights to prevent persecution. What other nation has started with a Bill of Rights? No, it wasn't perfect. From the founding of America in 1776 to 1864, there was slavery. Then there was a civil war to end slavery in 1865. They fought each other to make this place better and added the 13th Amendment to end slavery. Still, things were not good because even though slavery was abolished, the blacks didn't have the same rights as the whites. So in 1866, another amendment was added, the 14th, redefining citizenship and restricting states from violating individual rights. Can you see how things were moving in the correct directions? How things were being fixed? Even though we all believe that slavery was unjust and every citizen should have the same rights, it takes time for people to change and accept these new laws if they are open to that change. Can you blame them for not changing overnight and viewing the blacks as equals when just a few years ago they were slaves? It took many generations for people to change. So we have this white race in America that just freed their slaves and started to give them equal rights. It is not hard to imagine that the white Americans were afraid the values and the culture was possibly going to change for the worse. At the same time, when this was happening, there was another battlefront on their culture: immigrants. If more people enter the U.S. who don't have the same values and they become citizens, then they can vote in new laws and change everything. So, to slow this change that was coming from many cultures that were immigrating to the U.S. in 1882, Congress enacted the Chinese Exclusion Act to temporarily exclude all immigrants from China. In 1902, Congress made it permanent. They required all Chinese to register with a government and carry identification papers or face deportation. They still did not view others as equals. So in 1903, the first immigration law was enacted to prevent a long list of people from entering the U.S. Now, between 1901 and the outbreak of World War I in 1914, 13 million immigrants came to the U.S. By 1910, 1/7 of American population was foreign-born. Was this a mistake of the U.S. government to allow so many people from entering the U.S. in such a short period of time if they were so afraid of change? Were there too many people entering the U.S. that would cause culture wars from its citizens? In the 1920s, evangelical Protestants felt threatened by the decline of traditional values and the increase of other religions, so they started preaching against this change. In the urban small towns, these immigrants stuck out like a sore thumb, and the residents did not like it. So the states of Oregon required all students to attend public schools to fight against other parochial schools from teaching other values. Also, in Atlanta, Georgia, there was a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan that was fighting for native-born Protestant supremacy. The 1920s produced a fundamental change in immigration policy. Prior to World War I, virtually all the white persons who wished to immigrate to the U.S. were allowed. But during the 1920s, things changed. In 1921, restrictions on immigration from Europe was limited to 350,000 per year, and 3 years later it was reduced to 150,000. A law in 1924 established for the first time the term illegal alien. Can you see where this is going? Yes. Not all the laws were just bad ones, should not have been enacted. Some of them were probably illegal. But America was worried about the change all those immigrants were causing. The question is, should the immigration quota of a country be based on the culture, race, or religion? How about people who were here before the immigration laws and want to destroy America? Should they be deported? How about illegal immigrants, or how about legal for immigrants who have hidden their hate for the U.S.? Should they be deported? Let's look at an extreme case at both ends of the spectrum to see if there is a possibility that immigration quotas based on race or nationality is okay. Let's look at a group of people who throughout history has been persecuted by many countries to see if the current immigration policy in America is bad compared to what has been happening to the Jewish people throughout history. I would like to give some examples. You be the judge if it is okay for immigration quotas to be based on race, religion, religious beliefs, or culture. In the Old Testament, we are told that about 2,500 years, Joseph's son of Jacob, was second in command of Egypt, and that Joseph saved the land of Egypt from starvation from the famine that was about to occur. Pharaoh invited Joseph's 70 family members to settle in Egypt. Then, about 200 years later, when the Jews' population was almost outnumbering the Egyptians started to enacting laws to decrease their numbers. Now, the Jews were not interested in taking over Egypt. They were going to settle in Israel. The Egyptians had two things in mind. They didn't want to kick out the Jews because they were a major part of the economy. At the same time, they feared the population of the Jews. So the Egyptians first enslaved them. Then, when that didn't work, the Egyptians started to kill all male-born children. Is this a proper racial law to prevent the disappearance of the Egyptian culture? Didn't Pharaoh invite them into their country? How about what Nazi Germany did to the 5 million Jews and the other races during World War II? The people who were killed were no threat to the Germans. The Nazis were performing an ethnic cleansing. Anyone who did not fit their criterion, which was made up of science, as the master race, would be exterminated. I am sure that everyone agrees without a doubt that this is not how to deal with the race and immigration issues. This is an extreme case, but you can hopefully decide this is a wrong way of dealing with it. Now, let's give another example, but this time of a race or religion that doesn't respect other beliefs and wants to push their beliefs and lifestyle on others. Just imagine for a moment if millions of fanatical Muslims who are hell-bent on pushing their way of life became citizens of the USA and then decided to make their law the law of the land. If this is possible, do you think the USA or any country should implement race immigration laws? Now let's take a look at how other countries are implementing immigration policy. There are about 150 countries that have immigration quotas and about 50 countries that don't have quotas. The countries that don't have immigration either have a low demand to enter or don't have an administrative system to enforce it. Example of countries without immigration quotas are Brazil and Mexico. And you can see immigration quotas are not equal to the US. Here are a few countries and the reasons why they implement immigration quotas. China uses it to maintain political and social control and to limit foreign residency. Indonesia uses it to protect local employment. Now let us see how the past few president administrations have implemented immigration policies. While Biden and Obama prioritized deporting criminal offenders, national security threats, and recent border crossers, they relied on the police perform the arrests. President Trump, on the other hand, was deporting all undocumented immigrants and had ICE agents perform the arrests, while President Obama had deported 3 million illegals. Trump deported only 1.5 million. During Trump's presidency, there were 2 civilians who were killed during an ICE raid when those civilians were interfering while the arrest process. Another issue on immigration and naturalization is occurring right now is that President Trump is trying to redefine birthright citizenship. Currently, the way the 14th Amendment is being defined is that anyone, even non-citizens, can come to America and have a child, which automatically becomes a citizen. The question is that what was meant when the amendment was created? President Trump wants to prevent giving citizenship to non-citizens who give birth in the U.S. Let me give you an extreme case why the current way the birthright citizenship of the 14th Amendment is being applied can be dangerous. That is currently being taken advantage of by foreigners who want to steal from the U.S. As early as 2015, there were 500 birth tourism companies in China that coached their clients how to deceive immigration officials on how to get in the U.S. so they can give birth in the U.S. Is this what the 14th Amendment was meant to encompass? I hope I have given you enough information to make an informed decision if it is correct or incorrect to implement an immigration quotas in the U.S. based on race, religion, or culture.